Hey guys, alright, we are back with another Infographics show. This time, the insanely crazy story of a tiny soldier. Now, we have established that they are not the best of reliable sources for historical information. That has been established. I think every single video, sadly. I mean, they're not bad, but it's not to the quality that I think it should be. But yeah, they're still entertaining though. You gotta admit that it's still entertaining to watch. So it's kind of why I keep coming back, because they're still entertaining. So let's go ahead and dive right into this story here.
It's the closing days of the Second World War, and despite defeat being a near certainty, the German army is still fighting ferociously, forcing Allied troops to
I believe the Germans caused more casualties to the Americans than the Japanese did.
Pay for every inch of territory with their blood.
Despite, the late entrance of the United States into the war against Germany and Japan first attacking the United States. It's kind of interesting how that worked.
Just outside the Vosges Mountains, an American infantry platoon is under heavy assault by a well-coordinated and armed German advance. Several M10 tank destroyers are lending their fire to the battle on the American side, but one by one they are hit by German Panzerschrecks and anti-tank munition, forcing their crews to abandon the vehicles. Amidst the chaos, one soldier sees that his men are about to be overrun, and he immediately orders them to make a break for the woods behind them. To cover their retreat, the soldier leaps up and rushes to a burning tank destroyer, hopping atop it and manning the 50 caliber machine gun, standing alone against a horde of oncoming Germans.
Mad lad.
Just 2 years earlier, Ali Murphy found himself being rejected for military service by first the Army, and then the Navy, and finally the Marine Corps. The 5'5" wood...
If he got rejected by the Army, he's going to get rejected by the Marine. If he gets rejected by the Navy, he's going to be rejected by the Marines. Like, out of those three, the Marines are the toughest, and the Navy's the easiest. Well, I guess it probably depends on... I think in terms of basic training and physical requirements, I think the Navy's the easiest out of those three. And then Marines, I think... Actually, would the Marines have been tougher than the... Would Marines have undergone tougher training back then still? Because I don't know the difference between the training back then. I don't know if it was that different.
Soldier was too short and underweight, the military doctors all said. Plus, to boot, he was too young, only 16 years old. Yet there was a war on, and the pain of Pearl Harbor was still deeply felt by Murphy and most Americans. Plus, the US had just suffered crushing defeats in the Philippines. Murphy wanted to fight, and he wasn't going to stop trying to enlist until he was allowed to, faking his birth certificate with
A lot. I don't know if I should say a lot, but a good amount, I think, of American soldiers would, like, there's a sizable portion of Americans that lied to get into the military during World War II following Pearl Harbor. Because that's definitely a consistent trend that happened there. I don't think it has happened for any other war. And it certainly has become tougher to kind of lie about that kind of stuff in the modern day.
With the help of his sister, Murphy was finally accepted into the Army on the 30th of June, 1942. Taunted for his short stature, Murphy nonetheless immediately proved a very capable soldier.
Well, how tall is he? Did they say? Did I miss it?
An expert badge with bayonet
I think they just called him short. I don't think they told us his height.
Graduating from basic training, Murphy was sent overseas to the Mediterranean theater, acting as a platoon messenger in Algeria, while the Allies trained for their upcoming assault landings in Sicily. Weeks later, Murphy found himself on a speeding landing assault craft, plowing through the stormy seas with swells several feet high. A freak summer storm had sprung up overnight, preventing the landing of paratroopers meant to strike the German defenders from behind and ease the pressure on the landing sites. The weather was so bad, however, and the sea so violent, that the German commanders relaxed their defenses, thinking no Allied commander would be insane enough to risk amphibious landings in such extreme wind and rain. Yet from out of the gloom and the howling wind, there suddenly came the thunderous booming of battleship batteries, raining death down amongst the German defensive positions. And just behind the fiery onslaught were lines of Allied landing craft, bringing 150,000 soldiers into the soft underbelly of Axis-held Europe.
That's a lot.
Murphy hit the beach.
Also, can I just say, I don't like the way that they have the words coming across the screen. They don't really give you a chance to really read it. It's kind of annoying to me.
With his men that day, and while on a scouting patrol came across 2 fleeing Italian officers, which he shot and killed. Having survived the violence of the initial...
Hold on, if they're fleeing, I don't think you're allowed to shoot them. I think that's a war crime. Isn't it? Like, if someone's running away, I don't think in modern war you can shoot them. Right? Is that a thing? Or am I just making that up? I don't know.
Landings, though, a severe illness sidelined Murphy, and he was forced into a field hospital for a week. Rejoining his unit, he was then sent to Salerno, landing near Battipaglia, where he and 2 other soldiers were ambushed by a German unit. Their withering barrage immediately cut down one of the soldiers, leaving Murphy and another soldier alone against a squad of 5 Germans firing at them from a fortified position. Responding with hand grenades and their own machine gun fire, Murphy and his comrade killed all 5 Germans, sadly too late to save the injured soldier's life. 1 month later, Murphy joined in the assault against the Volturno Line. The southernmost line of German defenses meant to slow down the Allied assault into Italy. There, Murphy and his men repelled a counterattack by 7 German soldiers, killing 3 and taking 4 prisoners. For his leadership and excellence on the battlefield, Murphy received a promotion to sergeant, only to be promoted just 1 month later in January 1944 to staff sergeant, still only 19 years old. Hospitalized with malaria, Murphy was out of action for a week and a half before rejoining his men at the First Battle of Cisterna, a disastrous American defeat that saw the loss of over 700 U.S. Army Rangers. As U.S. forces licked their wounds, Murphy found himself taking shelter in an abandoned farmhouse along with his unit. Suddenly, a German panzer discovered their position, and Murphy crawled out alone on his belly, drawing close enough to destroy the tank with rifle grenades. For his incredible heroism, Murphy was awarded the Bronze Star with V device. Months later, Murphy found himself once more on a landing craft, being tossed around the choppy seas as he sped to shore on the south of France. The Normandy invasion had been successful, and Allied forces from a now defeated Italy would join in the retaking of France by catching the Germans between a northern and southern invasion, squeezing the Nazis back into Germany. Under heavy fire, the landing craft hit the beach, and men rushed forward to destroy the German defenders firing down on them from fortified bunkers. As the invasion force pushed out of the beaches, Murphy and his platoon found themselves picking their way through a beautiful French vineyard, a surreal moment of peace and calm amidst the incredible violence raging all around them. However, the peace was quickly shattered as German infantry opened fire on the Americans, wounding and killing several. Murphy's squad's machine gunner had been detached from the rest of his unit and desperately in need of some heavy suppressing fire. Murphy braved a storm of bullets to retrieve the weapon, and then incredibly rushed back into the fray and began returning fire, killing 2 German soldiers. Suddenly,
I really like that first person view that they give, though. That looks cool.
German
I like
fire
that
slacked
a lot.
off and stopped, and 2 German soldiers left their position inside a house with their hands up, appearing to surrender. Murphy's best friend responded and approached the soldiers, ready to take them prisoner, when suddenly Germans hiding inside the house opened fire, killing him instantly. In a fit of rage, Murphy stormed the house completely alone as the Germans poured fire in his direction. Incredibly, Murphy avoided being hit and, armed with only his rifle, killed 6 Germans, wounded 2, and took 11 prisoner. For his and his men's heroism that day,
I'm surprised he took them prisoner.
Murphy and his unit received the Presidential Unit Citation. Murphy's seemingly invulnerability, however, came to an end when on the 15th of September 1944, he was wounded by a mortar blast, shrapnel cutting deep into his heel. Just a few weeks later, though, Murphy was back in action and would earn a Silver Star for assaulting a German machine gun position, killing 4 and wounding 3. Just 3 days later, engaging the Germans at Lumey in the Clure River Valley, Murphy and his unit found themselves unable to take a heavily defended hill from their German defenders. Crawling alone forward toward the German position, where he could get a better vantage point, Murphy directed his men in their assault via radio, even while Germans rained machine gun and rifle fire down on him for over an hour. After successfully taking the hill, Murphy earned a bronze oak leaf cluster for his Silver Star and a battlefield commission to second lieutenant.
Nice.
Joining the assault into the heart of France, Murphy and his platoon were ambushed by German snipers on the 26th of October. Picking his way from cover to cover, Murphy managed to make his way right up to the German position, taking 2 of the soldiers prisoner, while suddenly a 3rd sniper shot him in the hip. Spinning on his attacker, Murphy leveled his rifle and put 1 round directly between the sniper's eyes. For his injury, Murphy received his first bronze oak leaf cluster for his Purple Heart, but partial loss of his hip muscle due to the removal of gangrene from the wound forced Murphy out of combat until January. By that time, though, the Allies were pushing the Germans steadily back and out of France. Joining his men at the Colmar
That's a
Pocket
weird
in the
looking
Vosges
map.
Mountains near central France, Murphy and his men found themselves in the thick of some of the most brutal fighting of the war. Determined to force the Allies back into the sea, a fierce German counterattack broke on the U.S. lines like a storm. Caught out in the open, Murphy called for any fire support available to prevent the Germans overrunning their position. A detachment of M10 tank destroyers responded and immediately began engaging the Germans. However, German fire quickly began eliminating the vehicles one by one. Firing from a hastily prepared defensive position, the blast of a Panzerschreck striking an M10 just feet away rolled over Murphy. Knowing his men would be killed to the last if they remained out in the open, Murphy ordered his men to make a break for the woods behind them. Remaining at his position alone, he fired at the oncoming Germans while also directing artillery fire over the radio. Murphy knew he needed to lay down some heavy suppressing fire if his men were going to have any chance of making it to safety, but he was armed with only his M1 rifle. That's when Murphy spotted the 50 caliber machine gun atop the destroyed M10, and ignoring the flames, smoke, and incoming German fire all around him,
Does he
Murphy
die?
made a mad dash for the burning wreck and crawled atop it, manning the heavy
Is this
machine
Captain
gun
America?
and laying down a withering barrage of fire at the oncoming Germans. For over an hour, Murphy stayed atop the burning vehicle, returning fire against the Germans and advancing vehicles. The mighty 50 caliber machine gun, nicknamed Modus by US forces, belched out high-speed death, shredding even the armor of the German vehicles. Wounded in both legs and finally out of ammunition
In the
after
knees.
over 60 minutes of fighting, Murphy finally left the burning wreck and crawled his way back to his men in the woods behind him. Having killed and wounded 50
Okay, he
Germans
just
and
lives like
knocking out
that, just
several German
casually?
vehicles,
Okay.
Murphy ignored the wounds to his legs and led his men in an assault to repel the German counterattack,
How's he
pushing
still
the enemy
walking?
back and securing the U.S. position. On guard against a second counterattack, Murphy refused to be evacuated to a field hospital and remained with his men as his wounds were treated. For his heroism that day, Murphy was awarded the U.S. military's highest decoration, the Medal of Honor, given only in the most extreme cases of gallantry and heroism. His wounds proved to be too great to rejoin the fighting this time, however, and Murphy was moved from the front lines to regimental headquarters to act as an Army liaison officer, a well-deserved rest for an incredible soldier. Audie Murphy would ultimately become one of the most highly decorated soldiers in U.S. history, and even earned several awards and citations from the French and Belgian governments for heroism. Unable to continue service due to his injuries, Audie left the military at the end of the war and began a very successful career as a Hollywood actor, starring in several films featuring his own exploits in combat. Sadly, Murphy would go on to be killed in a plane crash on the 28th of May, 1971, though his body would be interred in Arlington National Cemetery, where it remains one of the most visited graves.
Well, now that was a sad ending. Okay, lived a full life though, I would say. See, he'd be in his 50s, 40s or so if he was 16 when Pearl Harbor happened. 50s when he died. Not bad, not bad. I'd consider that a full life still. But yeah, that was the insanely crazy story of a tiny soldier. I'm kind of upset that they never told us his height. They just said he was shorter. He was too short to join the military at first, and then somehow he was able to get in. He's able to get in by lying. But I would have liked a bit of knowledge on just how. I think it would have been just a throwaway line. He was 5'6". I don't fucking know. 5'6", too short to be in the army, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, there's a chance that my dumb ass did not hear them say how tall he was. So, if they did, that's on me. But, yeah, that was the insanely crazy story of a tiny soldier by Infographics Show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Leave a suggestion down below for what you want to see me react to next. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.